Hello everybody, welcome to the Joy of Cooking with Michelle and welcome to my kitchen. Today we're making beef barley soup and I'm going to show you another alternative in case you want to make vegetable barley soup. Right now I have all the ingredients laid out, so come on in. I have already browned up probably about 1.5 pounds of beef. And I've cut the beef into smaller pieces, rather thin and no more than 1 inch in length. I also have chosen peas, potatoes, mushrooms, carrots, and onions. And I have some broth. I have 2 different kinds of broth here. I have beef broth, some no-name beef broth, and I also have some mushroom broth, which will be just fantastic. And I had this in my cupboard already. It's pot barley. So I need to take a minute and explain to you that in the store generally we find 2 types of barley. Pot barley and pearl barley. And the pot barley is healthier for you than the pearl barley because it's less processed. So the pot barley only has the hull of the barley removed, and the pearl barley is processed 1 step further and it has the bran removed. So the pot barley is your best choice. And when you're in the grocery store, you will see both brands. Choose the pot barley. The thing is that the pot barley takes at least an hour to cook, 50 minutes to 60 minutes. So count on that amount of time. Now, because I'm making soup, what I want to do anyways is I want it to simmer. I took out my crock pot because I thought if I put it on high, bring it up to a bit of a simmer, then I can just plug it in, go away for the morning, come back, and it'll be ready for lunch. Or you can plug it in, put it on, like I would heat it up on high to begin with, turn it down to low if you're going to leave it simmer for the rest of the day. Now, the nice thing is when you brown the beef ahead of time and the beef cooks, it shreds apart a little bit and becomes even more tender. So the key is that you can use a combination of any vegetables you like. Remember that the barley, no matter which type of barley you're using, it will double in size. So I started out with about 3/4 cup, and this is what the barley looks like before it's cooked. And remember, starting with 3/4 cup, it's going to end up being 1.5 cups volume. So you might want to use a bigger pot, and you might want to use a proportion that's bigger for your family. And if you cook extra, you can freeze it. Use the vegetables you enjoy. So I used some fresh carrots. I have 2 fresh carrots and I've cut them into carrot coins. You can see they're just regular carrot coins. I used frozen peas because it's easy. So I have about 3/4 cup of frozen peas. And I took 1 red pepper and chopped it up. I have a medium onion that I chopped up. And the onion I sauteed ahead of time. If you're using onion or celery, I would always recommend sauteing that before you add it to your soup because it brings the flavor out. And if you're going to use fresh garlic, I would put it in with the onions also. Now the other thing I would recommend, because the pot barley is high in, it's a grain, so it's high in carbohydrates, I would choose either pot barley and a potato. So I have about a medium-sized potato that I've cut up. So it's no more than a cup of cut up potato, because it's going to be very hearty. If you choose to use corn, you can use frozen kernel corn if you want. But then I probably wouldn't use the potatoes and the corn and the barley. It's a lot of carbs. And not that there's anything wrong with carbs. It'll be very, very filling. But I probably would choose barley with potatoes or barley with corn. So just a tip. And I have 1 chopped up red pepper, like I said. The other thing I did saute ahead of time is I have some cremini mushrooms. So I used a small container of cremini mushrooms, sauteed them up already, because I think with the beef and the barley, the mushrooms will be amazing. So let's get started. It's a little bit of prep work ahead of time to saute a few things up ahead of time. The mushrooms and the onions. And the beef. It's always nice to brown your beef ahead of time, like I said. After that, it's just an assembly process. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my beef and I'm going to put that in. And I'm going to put my barley in because it's beef and barley soup. And I have my peas. Even if the vegetables are frozen, I would still stick them in. If you wanted to and you wanted your peas not to be really well done, you could add the frozen peas, you know, when it's half cooked. But I like the vegetables all to be in so that all the flavors blend in to the broth. Now, this is a rather small crock pot, so you may want to use a bigger container. By the time I get all the vegetables in here, there's not going to be a lot of room for the broth, but if you had a bigger crock pot, that would work perfect. So what you want to do is you want to use at least one of the 1 liter Tetra Paks of the broth, which is about 4 cups, a minimum, because you're going to see as the barley cooks, the fluid's going to be absorbed. So as it cooks, you might have to add more broth. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with a whole container of the beef broth. And like I said, I'm going to turn my crock pot on high and I'm going to let it cook. I'm going to keep an eye on it. If the fluid is being absorbed by the barley too much and I need extra fluid, then what I'll do is I'll add either more beef broth or mushroom broth. I thought it would be lovely. So look at that. That fit perfectly in there. It's going to be a nice hearty soup. The nice thing about the barley is, oh my goodness, it's meant for a nice winter filling soup. It's a meal of its own, really. So all I have to do now is put the lid on, plug it in, and there you go. So like I said, it's going to take at least an hour for the barley to cook, so you can plan on that. And if you wanted to make this recipe vegetarian, you could, of course, leave the beef out altogether, and instead of using the beef broth, you could use the mushroom broth, which is 100% vegetarian, or you could use vegetable broth. That would work also. The barley, you could use all the rest of the ingredients, all the vegetables. You could even add some shelled edamame if you wanted to pump up the protein. There is a certain amount of protein in the barley, don't forget. But if you wanted to, you could add some edamame, and that would be a lovely addition also to pump it up. I wouldn't add anything like quinoa extra to it or any other grains because I think it's going to be perfect just the way it is. This is a great way for us to implement more variety of grains in our nutrition. 100%. I love this. Beef barley soup is my all-time favorite. So I'm going to put this up on my channel. You're going to see it on my YouTube channel. So if you haven't had a chance, check out my YouTube channel also. And thank you for joining me. I'll see you again soon. Bye.